Figure it out.
Hello, this is Adam Korlick with Figure It Out Productions. The following video is part of our Quick Shoot series.
Hey guys, it's Adam here, and much like I did last week when the PS4 came out, I wanted to give you my day one impressions of the console after using it for a whole day. You know, what do I think of it, and so on and so forth. I'll go over the good, I'll go over the bad. I'm trying to really be as fair as possible here. I really am. But I'm incredibly disappointed in the Xbox One. It's so far. This is going to take some time, so if you want to stick around and we'll chat about, we can chat about all this and you can get some more info if you're curious about buying a console and all that. But I'm going to just warn you up front, I don't have a whole lot positive to say about it. And no, it's not fanboyism. I'm not a Sony fanboy. I actually really dislike the PlayStation brand. I always have. But I mean, the Xbox 360 was my console of choice for the 7th generation. The Xbox, the original one, with the exception of the Dreamcast, was my console of choice for the 6th generation. I was hoping that this could live up to be the console of choice for the 8th generation. I'm not going to write it off yet, but I don't know. I may, for the first time ever, I may go with a Sony console as my console of choice for a generation. I'm going to give Microsoft a chance to pull out of this, but just like they did with the DRM, they fucked up so hard. I'm glad they undid that massive fuck up, but there's so many little bullshit things wrong with this console that makes you go, fuck it, I don't want to deal with it. But let's go over all of that. First, this stupid fucking thing, the Kinect. I don't want this shit. This added $100 to the cost of the console. Like, in theory, the Kinect is nice. In theory, I walk in, it says, "Hey, Adam," and, it turns on, it gets all my shit configured, and everything's great. Doesn't really work that way, though. And I'm not the only one who noticed this. Kotaku posted the same thing. They basically made the point that the Kinect, the original one, had about a 40% accuracy. About 40% of the time when you're using it, it kind of does what you want. This one is about 80%. Obviously, substantial improvement. But you know what works 100% of the time? This, a friggin' controller. This will always work. Unfortunately, this is where the big problems with the Xbox One come in. Because the console, the operating system, seems to have been completely designed around the Kinect. It seems to be like, here's the theory. You can sit there and be like, Xbox, play Blu-ray, and it'll just magically do it. Sometimes that works. A lot of the time it doesn't. And if you want to do that with a controller, you have to click on a bunch. You have to do everything in 17 steps to get everything started. The operating system is a jumbled mess if you refuse to use the Kinect, which I refuse to do because I don't want it. I don't want it connected all the time. I don't want it watching me doing shit. It's not that I think Microsoft's going to spy on me. None of that kind of crap. It's just that I shouldn't require this stupid fucking thing to use the system. And thankfully, they disconnected it. You can use it without the Kinect, but it's not user-friendly without the Kinect. And the Kinect is completely and utterly inconsistent. I can say Xbox, play Blu-ray, but at other times, and maybe it'll do it, but other times, let's say I'm watching a movie, right? Then they can say something in the movie that causes the Xbox to go back to its dashboard. Why? Why is that the case? Why do I need this stupid thing in order to use the console properly? Now, I really, really hope that they fix this. An update to the operating system to make it much more user-friendly. I'm sure most of you have used the Xbox 360. Its operating system is pretty simple. I mean, you can kind of get around it. It doesn't require the Kinect really to kind of do anything. It just kind of gets enhanced by it. The Xbox One, though, clearly was made with the Kinect in mind. We all know that. But it's really, really difficult to navigate stuff if you don't use the Kinect. And that's a huge problem because I literally don't even have it connected. I had it connected just to update the thing, start it all up because I know it needed it to get the initial update and configuration. But after that, I've disconnected. I don't want to use it. I just don't want to use it. I don't want it. And so the Xbox One experience, at even its most basic level, it becomes incredibly difficult. Another issue is data management. Believe it or not, and I cannot believe this is a problem, and I'm sure they're going to fix this because this is ridiculous. But there's no data management functions. You cannot see how much space is left on your hard drive at any given time, nor can you easily delete files. You can delete things, although it's not intuitively obvious as to how, but you can do it. But there is, unlike the Xbox 360 that had a very simple system for this, there's no way to do that with the Xbox One. Again, I can only assume that that's going to get patched rather quickly because Kotaku kind of ripped Microsoft a new asshole for that one. I dislike the operating system intensely. It's too similar to Windows 8 but has too many problems. It's hard to really describe without you guys trying to use it. Its navigation is just really not intuitive. And that's unfortunate. Let's see, other problems. Well, let's talk about some pluses, actually. The console design. I actually think the console looks good. It looks nice. A lot of people were shitting on it because they thought it was weird, but it looks nice. I don't have a problem with that. It's really big, but that's not that bad. And the reason that's not that bad is because this thing is like half fans. So, and it runs whisper quiet. I mean, it runs beautifully. As far as that goes. It doesn't overheat or anything like that, at least it doesn't seem to. I barely even notice when it's on, which is great. I at first was like, what the hell is in this thing? Because the PS4 is like half the size. And the PS4 has an internal power supply. This thing has an external one. But basically, all that's in there, other than like its motherboard and the drives and everything, is just a shit ton of fans to keep the thing cool. So, hey, that's kind of cool. No pun intended. On the back, you've got proprietary power supply. I do not like that. That's one thing I'll give to the PS4. They used a universal power supply, that two-prong power supply, that allows it to be... basically, I can use one cord to control the PS3, the PS4, the PS1 if I wanted to, the PS2 if I wanted to, the original Xbox, the Sega Saturn, the Sega Dreamcast. One cord can power all of those consoles. The same cord, and just swap out whatever I want. This is designed specifically for the Xbox One. And that sucks because consoles that do that, if the console's unsuccessful, say the Atari 7800, those power supplies become very hard to find over time, and then you have a problem playing it down the line because eventually the power supply will stop working, and if you can't get a common replacement, that sucks. Now, granted, of course, the problems with an internal power supply is you have to change it, but in theory, but more likely you're just going to lose the cable. And if you lose a very common cable, that's easy to replace. But if you lose a unique cable, that sucks. It's got HDMI out. It has no other output options. So for those of you who, because a bunch of people were commenting about this on the PS4, you can't output through component or composite or S-Video or SCART. None of that is there. You can, at least with the Xbox One, if you want, you can use a HDMI to, component or SCART or whatever you want, adapter. I would not recommend that, but some people just have no choice. They don't have HD TVs, and the converter is cheaper. I understand that. With the Xbox One, you can do that because it has no HDCP protection. The PS4 does, so you can't do that with the PS4, not natively. Although a patch apparently is coming, so whatever. However, if you do that, you cannot watch Blu-rays, and I don't think you can watch DVDs either, because HDCP protection does kick in for Blu-rays on the console. I don't know about DVDs. It has this, I haven't used it yet, but it has this HDMI in feature, which is a neat idea. But given how fucking terrible the operating system seems to be, I don't know how interested I am in using it. I was actually kind of psyched for that. I thought that's kind of neat. This thing will be able to organize all my shows, and it'll do it way better than my DVR does. and in theory I can connect other consoles to it, and let's just give that a go. But until they update the operating system to make it less ridiculously complicated to do anything on, I don't really want to. It's so much easier to just use my native setup, like the regular TV setup or the regular console setup. I don't need to have two consoles on at the same time to play one of them. Same with the TV. Now, I don't doubt the potential is there, but I think they just really need to update the operating system to make that work. Because right now, I see no advantage, really, to connecting to anything to it yet. But, hey, I'm totally willing to give them the benefit of the doubt. I think they can make that work eventually, but they need to seriously update the operating system. Got it, 3 USB ports. Can't knock that. I would like it if there were frontal USB ports. As it is, you got 2 on the back and you have 1 on the side. I'm going to get a plug-in charge kit for my controller, and I'm assuming, obviously since I don't have it yet, that similar to the Xbox 360 one, plugs into the console. And since there's only 1 port on the front, it becomes inconvenient if any other devices are released that could use it. Now, it might support multi-taps. Unfortunately, I did not test that. I would bet that it does. So then maybe that's not that big of a deal. It has broadband support, standard Ethernet. You don't have. I think it has built-in Wi-Fi, although I didn't use that. And it has optical audio out, and it has an IR blaster feature if your TV system requires it. So it was good of them to do that. I'm going to go back to the Kinect here for a second. I'm going to give props to one thing on the Kinect. One of the biggest problems I think we all would agree with on the Xbox 360 was Xbox Live codes. Whatever it is, for DLC or redeeming a month subscription, whatever it is. It's like a 25-digit code that you had to type in with a controller. The Kinect actually makes that way easier. I'm going to give it credit where credit is due. Basically, you get like a little thing like this, and on the back it has a code thing. And you basically just put that up in front of the Kinect. Well, you say like Xbox redeem code or something like that, and then you show it this, and it just automatically does it. Like I said, credit where credit is due. I don't want to shit on it to shit on it. I want to shit on the problem so that hopefully they get fixed. Because I want this to be good. I want it to be great. That would be awesome. Having a great console is always better than having the friggin' Atari Jaguar, alright? It's always good when a console succeeds. Unfortunately, the console is not backwards compatible with either the original Xbox or the Xbox 360. For the same reasons with the PlayStation 4, I can understand why it can't, play the previous generation. I understand that you don't want to put all of the hardware in it required for it to play 360 games natively. I get that. Same with the original Xbox. And I understand why you don't want to try and make it emulate the 360. So as much as it sucks that it can't play the 360, I get that one. But I don't understand why it can't play the original Xbox. I mean, the original Xbox was played on the 360 through emulation pretty easily. Why the Xbox One, for some reason, can't do that is kind of beyond me. It's not even a CD issue. I mean, they're friggin' DVDs. It has a DVD laser. If they wrote a program, it could run it. So it's incredibly disappointing that they haven't done that. But hey, who knows? Maybe they'll fix that, because that'd be sweet. I'd love to be able to play original Xbox games in either at least 720p, because the 360 that did that. Maybe they could fully emulate to 1080p. That would be amazing. I'd love to play Shenmue 2 that way. Game cases are actually more unique than I originally thought. I thought they were just basically green PS4 cases, which is just like a standard case. But it's actually much more customized. First of all, the discs go on the other side, and it says Xbox One in hard plastic all over it. And it has Xbox One logos inside of it. So that's kind of cool. But then again, these are Day 1 edition exclusive games. Like, these are not multiplats. So I don't have any multiplats to test with it. So I don't know if multiplats use more standardized cases. So I can't comment on that. The controller. This is a really good controller as far as comfort and feel and all that. I like that. My biggest beef with this controller is that it uses 2 AA batteries. I don't know why in 2013 you would do that. Rechargeable batteries are way superior. Especially because they took one step back. Like, let's say you really like AA's and you liked the way the 360 did that. The advantage there was you could pop that out real easily and put in another one if you were ready to go. The Xbox One makes this much more complicated. See, it pops out and the batteries are just held right into the controller. They're not held into like any... I'm going to get the battery later. They're not held into like any proprietary little piece of plastic, and that slows down the ability to keep playing your games, which sucks. But like I said, I'm getting a plug-in charge kit, and I don't think that's not going to affect me, but I'm concerned for anyone out there who wants to use AA's with it. That is something to factor in. Let's talk about more of the features of the console, good and bad. Good things. Well, let's go over some interesting things. I just, for the hell of it, I connected the Xbox 360 HD DVD drive just to see what that would do. Didn't acknowledge it. Didn't light up. Nothing. It did nothing. It was like as if it didn't see it. So I didn't expect that to work. But hey, I thought I'd test it. So in case anybody's wondering, it does not play. At least this is an American model. It does not play Region 2 DVDs, or I'm guessing Region 3, 4, 5, or 6. It only plays Region 1 if you're an American, and if you are a Canadian. I'm just guessing it's going to play the DVDs of whatever region you're in. That's a legality thing, so I don't really knock them for that. Much like the PS4, I talked about this in my overall thoughts on the PS4. This is a feature that's mostly useless, but it was important to me quite a few years ago. Maybe to some of you still out there, it will be. When you get an import DVD, something like, I mentioned this before, I got Transformers the movie, the 1986 animated movie. I got that from the UK. That is a Region 2 DVD, does not play here natively. Because I bought it, I can legally back it up. And when you back it up, you can remove the region coding. Therefore, the console should play it. However, there's actually a second issue, the video frequency. American stuff uses 60 hertz. European stuff, specifically the UK, uses 50 hertz. Now, a lot of consoles don't compensate for that. The PS2 never did. The PS3 never did. The Xbox and the Xbox 360 both did. The PS4 does. The Xbox One, thankfully, does. So now the majority of them do compensate for that, so that's great. In case that mattered to you. Blu-ray support is fucking mediocre. This is the worst Blu-ray player I've ever had. Now, granted, that's obviously not its primary function, but if you're thinking about, like, well, I'll get it because then I'll have a Blu-ray player, if that's for some reason a motivator for you, this is not the fucking machine to go with. And the reason it's not is that it cannot play backups or independently made stuff. I'm an independent filmmaker, and so I make my own content. And that means if I'm going to make it myself and I'm going to put it out there myself on physical media, I have to put it on a Blu-ray I've burned myself. It will not play that, which is... I've never seen a Blu-ray player that did that it played legit but it didn't play backups. And I know you're thinking, like, well, maybe it's a piracy measure. Yeah, maybe it is, but for people who make legitimate content, that's a real fucking fuck you. That's shitty. They shouldn't do that. Especially since I can't think of any other Blu-ray player that does that shit. So that's a big thumbs down on that. And that sucks. It plays DVD-Rs, so I don't know why the hell it can't play, BD-Rs, but apparently it can't. So that was massively fucking disappointing. Now on to gameplay. Oh my god. Alright, so this is kind of... There's two things to this. One is you've got to install your games, which is the same with the PS4. And like the PS4, once it's installed a certain amount of content, it can start playing. But the PS4 can only has to do a small amount, relatively. Maybe it's a gigabyte of data, I'm not exactly sure how much. But it installs that amount and then lets you get going. You honestly... it's kind of like the same as doing a firmware update. It doesn't take very long once you kind of pop the game in. The Xbox One, though, I really hope this is software upgradable because I'm not making this shit up. I put in a game, it literally took about 30 minutes before I was able to play anything. It continues to, install the game as you go, but it takes a really long time. And that's just evident to me because... that their original design for this thing, as we all kind of know, was when it was all DRM written, it was going to be a glorified installation system. Like, the discs weren't going to be games, they were going to be just installation discs, like kind of like the way, PC games kind of did, like in the aughts. The idea was to do it very similar. You just kind of install the data and then you just throw this shit away because it's all on your hard drive, digital. I fucking hate digital. But because of that, I'm guessing it's because of the way they compiled the system around that's largely the problem when it comes to trying to play the games quickly, is that it has to install a shit ton of data, and it can't do it particularly quickly. I don't know. I didn't design the thing, obviously. I would have made some fucking changes if I was a designer. But, yeah, I don't know. I'm just warning you up front. If you're going to get the thing, be aware that installations take a really long time, so make sure you got something else to do. At least that was my experience with it. I really am hoping that this is just day one bugs. That, the firmware upgraded and all this shit goes away and all my complaints are over. I would genuinely like that. I don't like that the thing kind of sucks, to be perfectly honest. I don't like that. Here's an interesting one. On the plus side, it plays music CDs. You have to upgrade it. You have to put in some software. One thing that is good or bad, depending on your perception here, is it doesn't natively play media. Like, it doesn't natively play DVDs, it doesn't natively play Blu-rays, it doesn't natively play music CDs. What you do is you put in one of those things, you put in a Blu-ray, DVD, music CD, and it says, okay, and it takes you to an app on the store and says, do you want to install this? Now, the app is, of course, free, and therefore it just downloads, installs, and then it's able to play that media. And you think, like, why didn't you do that already? And I can see why it would be good not to do that initially. Because what if, I've got a 500 gigabyte hard drive in this thing. That's it. That's all the space I have. So I have to be conscious of that. What if I don't feel like wasting 27 megabytes? Granted, it's not that much. But what if I don't feel like wasting that space to have a music CD function? Then I can see why not having it already pre-built into the operating system makes sense. So I'm not going to knock them for that. But at the same time, if you do want that, it is kind of inconvenient that you have to go out of your way and do that. But again, that's nitpicking. That's not that big of a deal. Point is, it does work. I didn't test CDRs, so I don't know about that. Legit CDs worked fine. I guess I should have in hindsight because of the Blu-ray issue. Now on to actual gameplay. The most fucking important thing. The thing that matters the most. And here, I'm actually going to give it kind of a thumbs up. Now, granted, I've only got Dead Rising 3 and I've got Rise Son of Rome. Those are the two games I tried out. I actually liked they were both fun. They played very well. There was no lag of any kind. It was rather smooth. Gameplay was actually really fun, too. I mean, obviously, at any time you can make a shitty game and that would be a different experience, but those two were a pretty good experience. And they ran very well, which is very important. I know that Dead Rising 3 only runs at 720p. I don't know about Rise Son of Rome. There's a big brouhaha about the Xbox One only being able to run games at 720p, or maybe it'll do 1080p. People say, like, no, this is the best it's ever going to get because it's PC hardware and they already know what they're doing. And other people say, no, they're going to learn in more tweaks and they're going to get going. I kind of fall on the fence a little there. I don't know exactly where I'm going to go hit the camp, I think, that yeah, they may know the hardware really well, but I think they're going to squeeze more power out of it, mostly because the launch has been so rocky. I mean, we have to understand that all these games were built around the much older system. The system of DRM being in place, the system of cloud gaming is everything. So it kind of makes sense that they would have programmed them slightly differently. Again, I'm not a programmer, but I'm hoping that that's the logic there, that, eventually it's going to be no problem. You're going to get 1080p games, no biggie. I know that the 360 has slightly foreign architecture, not as foreign as, like, say, the Sega Saturn, but it is similar in some regards. For example, after they removed the DRM, and they saw Sony's specs on the PS4, and they saw the just plethora of hate mail they got for the Kinect, they kind of said, we need to make some changes. And one of them was, may or may not be aware of this, do you know it didn't have a power button? You had to have the Kinect connected, partially because it literally wouldn't turn on without it. You had to say Xbox on, or the thing was a worthless piece of shit. So they had to fix that. So when they went in to upgrade a couple of parts to keep it a little bit more competitive with the PS4, they also added a sensor pad here that allows you to power it up. And that's good. A fucking power button. It's kind of astounding. Hey, we don't need a power button. Everybody loves Kinect. Can you imagine that? If it didn't have a power button and it completely relied on Xbox on and Xbox off? Do you know how easy it would be to fucking troll people? Like, if you were playing on Xbox Live, I mean, imagine all those kids that fucking just yell out bullshit all the time. You could easily just yell, Xbox off! And everybody's fucking Xboxes goes off. I'm just assuming, based on the experience I've had so far, that since it's that buggy, that probably would have been a problem. Just saying. What else can I tell you? Like I said, they went in and upgraded a couple of things. I think they added something called SRAM. I don't really know what that is. It's supposed to be kind of a quick fix, is my understanding. Kind of I already mentioned it before, the Sega Saturn. When Sega saw the specs of the original PlayStation, the Saturn was way weaker, so they wanted to keep it competitive. They threw in a second processor last minute. Most developers had no idea what the hell to do with it, so they mostly ignored it. Microsoft, I'm not going to say they went to that extreme, but they did add this thing called SRAM, apparently. That's what my understanding of it. And it creates a little bit of a bottleneck, is what I'm reading. It makes it a little bit harder to program for. Not necessarily hard, but I don't know. We're going to see where the Xbox One kind of goes with programming. I think because its architecture is a little foreign, it's a little weird right now, that you might squeeze more out of it, kind of the way they did with the PS3. Granted, the PS3 was completely different architecture altogether, but hopefully you see what I'm saying there. Now, actually I want to go back to one other thing about the design of this console. While I like the look, it suffers the same problem the PS3 launch model did, the same problem the PS4 does. Half of it is this shiny gloss thing. It looks good. It really does. It looks great. But it picks up fingerprints and dust, instantly. And I gotta wonder, who the hell over there at both camps, Why are they both... Shit, Nintendo's guilty too. The Wii U is all glossy. Why are they doing that? Don't they understand how easily this shit attracts fingerprints and dust? If you want the console to continue to look good, you don't make it that way. You give it kind of a textured feel. That way it just doesn't absorb fingerprints and dust the way these things do. There is one thing I have to say that's incredibly good about this console, though, and credit where credit is due. If you have Xbox Live Gold for the 360 and you load your account up on here, you get to keep all that there. You get to keep all the online functionality. Everything transfers with it. You don't have to pay twice, which is absolutely awesome. And on top of that, apps like Netflix and YouTube, if you've already established them on the 360, they transfer seamlessly over here. You don't have to do anything additional. And I want to give credit for stuff like that, because good ideas like that must be rewarded. But you have to acknowledge the bad ideas as well. That way you can fix them. Unfortunately, you can't upgrade the hard drive. Probably you can if you hack it. Some people were saying they already ripped them open and they were trying to put bigger ones in it, but Microsoft obviously doesn't support that. They lock you out. Major Nelson told us that's a Kensington security lock right there, and you can't get into that. And if you do, I'm sure they would just ban your console. So, I don't know. Honestly, I don't really know where I stand with the Xbox One. I want it to be good. I really, really, genuinely want it to be good. But right now, all I feel is massive, massive disappointment on everything other than, ironically, the games. The games, at least these two, they did a really good job on so far. I mean, people are shitting on them because people shit on everything, but I think those are two solid titles, and I'm not going to say they were necessarily worth picking up the console for, but that's not why I got it. I got it because I like to get the consoles right away. I like to make videos for you guys. I like to talk about gaming with people. That's fun for me. And who knows? I'm going to talk about this in another video, but this may have been the last console to ever come out. I'm sure a lot of you that your heads just spun around, and we'll talk about it eventually, but this may be the last one. And so I wasn't going to just wait, when I could. This is the final time I'm ever going to experience a console launch, in theory. We'll see. But yeah, I mean, right now, that's kind of it on my thoughts on the Xbox One, my first impressions. I'm going to keep using it all week and give you where I stand in a week. the same with the PS4. I'm about to do another video on that thing as well because I've found some problems with it I don't really like, things I didn't notice before. And yeah. Oh, one other thing about the Xbox One that the PS4 also suffers from is a serious lack of media support. It does not support like AVIs, MPEGs. You can't play any shit like that. It doesn't support MP3s, although Microsoft did say that's coming. So, you know, again, it's a game console. It should be a game console. But with a simple operating system update that they probably will do, you should be able to play those features. Those are bonus features. You know, they're nice things to have in addition to the games. It's supposed to make your investment far more worth it, especially if they have the arrogance to call this thing the Xbox One because it's the one thing you need. Then don't make me need other things, Microsoft. All right, if you're going to call it that, which is a fucking stupid name. I'm sorry, but it really is. But so is the PlayStation 4. That's a fucking stupid name. I do not like sequelization in consoles. But at least Sony can count. But anyway, so, yeah, would I recommend this? Right now, hell no. But I can't necessarily say I'd recommend the PS4 yet. You know, the PS4 is a more stable machine, I think, but the software isn't there. This one, not a very stable machine yet, but some of the games are actually there. So, sorry, but that's kind of where I stand on everything, at least at this point in time. And I'm sorry, I know I've rambled on for quite some time now, but I just want to bring these concerns to you guys so that you guys can be aware of what you're going for out there if you decide to buy anything, and act accordingly if my opinion means anything at all to you. So that's it for now, and I really want to thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you all later.